Okay, my name is Paul Larocca. I used to be a football coach here at Central Catholic.
My name's Jack Bogan.
Jim Schrader.
This is the legacy of Paul Larocca. Paul Larocca was born in 1937 in Chicago, Illinois, and graduated high school in 1955. He attended Purdue University. He became the head football coach for the Central Catholic Knights in 1960 and coached for 17 years.
Well, I played for him for 3 years, or tried to. I coached with him for 10 years, and he's just a lifelong friend to this day.
1975 football team. So I knew him first as a head football coach, and then later, I'd say as a colleague would probably be the way to put it, and then as a professional in the Lafayette community business.
He had two personalities. There was one he had as a coach and a school administrator, which was very firm, very strict, but helpful. Away from that environment, he's a very funny human being, a lot of fun, a great guy to hang with, one of my favorite people.
Humility. So when I think of him, the number one thing's humility, right? So he was very talented, but he didn't make a big deal about it. If you, I don't know if you've asked to interview him, but if you would, he would probably say, well, there's other people that are more important than me. And that gives anybody credibility. So if you're incredibly talented and you get a lot done, but you keep quiet about it and don't make a big deal about it and just put your head down and get the job done, people are going to respect you.
The very first football coach at Central Catholic, his name was John Jardine, asked me to help him with the football team. So he asked me to be the defensive coordinator, and I was a senior at Purdue, like I said, and that was the very first team that Central Catholic had. Then he left after 1 year, and a new person came in, and his name was Jim Shea, and he also graduated from Purdue, and he asked me to continue on helping, and he made me the offensive coordinator. So I had 2 good years of experience in terms of football for a start, and then when he left after 1 year, then they hired me to be the head coach in 1960.
Leadership is a God-given talent, I believe, and Paul just had it. Everyone looked up to him, they respected him.
Well, I think he was able to get the right people on his staff, so a combination of volunteers, right, and then motivate them. So just like all great leaders, he's able to evaluate talent and then figure out how to get them organized and motivate them.
Well, first of all, we wanted to be in a very good physical condition. We didn't want to ever get tired in the fourth quarter. We had a positive attitude towards the program. And we were limited on the amount of coaches I had. I only had 2 assistant coaches, and they were volunteers. One became a full-time assistant. And we needed to have a good weight program in the off-season and put those items together. We ended up having pretty good success.
As a coach, offensively in those days, we didn't throw the ball very much. And basically, we had 4 running plays to the right and 4 running plays to the left, and they were the same thing, except different formations. And when defensively is where he really, really shined. You would line up Monday during practice, and our basic defense was a 52 defense, a lot of what is played today. And our alignment would be different based on scouting the teams that he had done. Those things he taught to all of us as we coached with him. If the team was predominantly right-handed and you were the middle guard, for example, instead of lining up nose to nose, you might line up on that shoulder or even in the gap, and those calls would come in with the defensive signals. I remember one time when I was coaching with him, At that time, my job was to go down as far as I could, get behind the defense, and signal him what hole I thought would be to our benefit based on formation, personnel, and other things. And one time we ran 125, which is off right tackle, 4 consecutive plays. And we gained 8 or 10 yards on every one of them. And then I noticed they made a shift on their defense, so before I could signal to go to the left side, he already had the plan. And it was what we call 246, exact same play, other side. And he anticipated that, which he was beautiful at, being able to anticipate the other coach's moves. That play went for a touchdown.
Well, it was pretty straightforward. So coaching's evolved, right? Because you guys, all right, so in other words, youth have evolved and how they want to be motivated, right? And so back then, there wasn't a lot of, how are you feeling today? Although, Paul was a father and a great husband and a decent man, but it was pretty direct. So this is what I need you to do. Here's the expectation. And if you didn't do it, there was a little bit of motivation through, maybe, tough discipline, I would say, yeah.
We believe that the parents should have been involved with our program, and the players knew that. And every year, in a preseason before the schedule of the games, we had what we call the football camp for almost 2 weeks, to where the players would report at 6 in the morning, and they didn't go home until after 6 o'clock at night. They stayed here for 12 hours plus. We had different teaching situations for them, and we broke it down by positions and situations like that. And back then they used to call that double sessions. I don't know whether they do that anymore now, but they didn't leave. And we had mothers would make meals here for them, and it was it was a way to get everybody together.
I've said many times, other than my father, Paul Larocca is the most influential person in my life. But a lot of the stuff that I learned from Paul, his practices, his demeanor on how to go about a game, how he taught his coaches to read offensive, defensive, how to do fundamentals. A lot of that stuff I took to the Mitchell Agency. And a lot of it, when we would have a task, as he had taught us, take the person that's best at it, put them in charge of that part of it, somebody else something else, and get the job done. So he was very influential in my life.
He taught me a pretty hard lesson about overstepping, boundaries, and put me back in my place would be the way to say that. And that lesson served me through the rest of my life. That if you push the limit and maybe step over the line, there's going to be a price to pay. So, and it wasn't easy for him to do that.
Well, I think the stress I put on them from the standpoint of physical fitness and cooperation as a team. I think as they came in young and as they went through 3-4 years of that, they got to know what was expected of them, and we like to think that we didn't just coach them, we helped raise them, and therefore when they graduated, they were ready to either go to college or trade school or the military, and they used to come back several times and thank us all for what we did for them.
Well, let's go back to the leadership thing. He was by far the leader of the administrators. He was the disciplinarian. He kept the basketball games in control. And in those days, they could get quite wild. Fights were common. And he made sure that stuff didn't happen. But more than that, I love going through the hallways here because you guys and the ladies also are so respectful, and you're orderly and this and that and the other thing. And that's not in every school. That's not the way it is. And that was one of his legacies, to start that and make sure the kids behaved, didn't run into each other, so forth and so on. He still had fun. Don't misunderstand me. He's a fun guy. But business first. We played 1970, our undefeated season. We played Harrison, and it was a battle, but we moved the game. Paul did this. He was the athletic director. He moved the game to Jeff. And if I remember correctly, we sold 7,000 tickets for a high school football game. So that was an era of what?
His leadership was not only displayed on the football field, but off of it as well. In 1990, after his coaching career was over, the school announced that the doors would not be open for the 1990 to 1991 school year. Coach Larocca, along with others, were able to lead the charge and raise money to keep Central Catholic open.
But I would say, just looking around the school right now, you think about it being shut down. So think about you're going into your senior year, and you got to find another school to go to, right? And he and Bill Powers, maybe a group of 3 or 4 people, were able to get the school back open. So, we think of him as a football coach, right? But that was probably, in my mind, his biggest accomplishment.
He was an orator in the locker room.
His greatest moment was here in the gym behind us, and I'm going to go back to the school being closed. So, think about, and at the time, my children, the oldest was a kindergarten student, right? And but the whole community being distraught. So the school's closed down, high school. It's a serious situation. People are trying to figure out where their high school students are going to go. Jeff, Harrison, West Side, grade school parents. So the community was totally, I think, distraught. And Paul got on the stage. He's probably the one person that had the credibility to bring everybody together. So when you think about a coaching job, right, motivating, he was able to get on that stage, motivate everybody to give sacrificially. All right, so big gifts where families had to sit around and the husband and wife discuss, how many thousands of dollars they were going to give to keep the school open. And that first Spirit campaign raised $4 million, right? So, which, if we inflated those dollars, I haven't done the calculation. I should have done it for this talk, but, it would have to be at least double what it was back then. And everything else that we see today, around the school built upon that moment in the gym. And as far as motivating people, leading people, think of all the fundraising calls that had to be made. It was just phenomenal. And so I think as a young father and alumni to watch that happen, then when it was my turn, right, and we all got our turn, like to be the Spirit 2 campaign chairman, how can you turn that down or not do the same? And so I think a lot of us would point to that as we got into adulthood and more responsibilities, and it was our turn to raise money for the school. How can you say no after you watch that? So even when he left here, he was working behind the scenes. Paul was sneaky good at that, and I don't mean sneaky in a bad way. There were a lot of us doing things that the other person didn't know about, and Paul was behind it all. So in a positive way, right? So he was involved in the school and guided a lot of us. And again, that credibility. So when your football coach calls you and says, "Hey, I need you to coach Little Gridiron," right? It's going to be very difficult to say no. I can't do that, Paul, because of everything he did. He was dedicated to the school long time after he wasn't officially involved. So
It was 1965. Now remember, we won our first state championship in '76. But I got a phone call down at the agency, and it was Alice Larocca, a wonderful woman. And she said, and I think most of you know my nickname's Tapper, she said, "Tapper," and this is the conversation now, guys, Tapper, how are you? Fine, Alice, how are you? Paul is talking about retiring, and I want to know what you're going to do about it, okay? Thank you and goodbye. Click. That was it. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to do something about this. So after numerous conversations, a few lunches, he said, yeah, I'll coach one more year. And we won the state tournament, which is a wonderful thing for him. Walking off that field that night, it was Jim Cresor, Bill Bogan, myself, Paul Larocca, guys that had put their heart and soul into the program. And Paul said, well, do you think Alice will let me retire now? And we all burst out laughing. And that was the last time he coached.
Awesome. And then is there anything that you would, any stories you'd like to share or anything that you just want people to
I don't want to incriminate anyone.
Okay. Coach Larocca left an everlasting impact on the Central Catholic community. He finished his career with a record of 107 wins and 61 losses. He was inducted into the Indiana Football Hall of Fame in May of 1982. He is a legendary coach that will always have a presence around CC.